So I'm just arriving at the, there's a rally here, and they're going to march on the, they're going to march up to the US Embassy. It's about ending the, sending weapons.
Or Lebanon. And since October last year, the US has made more than 100 military sales to Israel, including jets, tanks, bunker busters, missiles, and so on. And Netanyahu and the IDF have smashed through every single supposed red line of the Biden administration, bombing schools, hospitals, refugee camps. Nothing is unbombable for the IDF, and yet their savagery continues virtually unabated. They've now expanded their war into Lebanon and the West Bank, and in Lebanon they've already killed over 3,000 people. And now after millions of people turn their backs on the Democrats in the US, we have Trump in power. A man who last time he was in power moved the US Embassy in Israel to occupy Jerusalem and recognized illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. He also said back in April, he told Israel to finish what they started in Gaza and get it over with fast. Absolutely foul. And although I think, it seems almost impossible that Israel's violence could get any worse, they have shown us time and time again that it is possible for it to get worse. And I think there's every reason to believe that Trump, who wears his racism and Islamophobia as a badge of pride and honor, will provide even more murderous support for Israel in the months and years to come. And what about our Prime Minister Anthony Albanese? So before the ABC News had even officially called the results of the US election, he was up there congratulating Trump, saying he looked forward to working with him productively and celebrating Australia's crucial relationship with the US. And this is a continuation of an imperialist alliance that has seen the Australian government being a virtually unflinching supporter of Israel's war in Gaza and beyond. They've provided crucial intelligence via the Pine Gap military base in the Northern Territory, as well as parts for the weapons and jets that have been used to slaughter Palestinians day in, day out. Shame. And this relationship has also allowed for a massive expansion of the US military in Australia, particularly in the northern half of Australia, and in the Pacific with the AUKUS nuclear submarine agreement that threatens war with China. And we cannot underestimate the danger that is posed to the entire world by Western imperialism, of which Australia and Israel are a key part. And it is clear that the Albanese government does not care who is at the head of that murderous alliance, whether it's Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, or Donald J. Trump. And so that's why we're here today. We're here to say no to Trump's murderous racism and to continue to call for the end of Australian support for the genocide in Gaza and the war in Lebanon, and to build the movement to free Palestine. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker now, just to let people know we're going to have 3 speakers here, and then we're going to march up to the US Consulate. It's about 10-15 minutes walk, and we'll have a couple more speakers there. So our first speaker today is Sammy Nasa. He's a Palestinian-Australian who returned to live in Gaza in 1999. He was displaced from his home in Gaza City as Israel's bombs were raining down, and he arrived in Australia last December. So welcome, Sammy.
Everybody, and thanks for showing your sympathy and support for the Palestinian people in Gaza, also the people in Lebanon. This genocide has been going over a year and nobody stopped it. It has been happening with the American weapons. The Americans has been supporting Israel for more than a year. The majority of who been killed women and children. 70% of whoever been killed in Gaza is women and children. I don't know when this war gonna stop. Biden, Trump, whoever comes I think it's gonna be the same both of them the same because exactly what Castro said long time ago, exactly this is 2 pair of shoes, one right and one left. But we asking for stop genocide in Gaza because we don't want to to finish, like, everybody over there, like, it's nothing there. No hospitals, no schools, no universities. This war, like, was against Hamas, as they say, in 7th of October. Why they didn't kill Hamas people? Why they killing women and children for more than a year? Why they demolishing, like, schools and hospitals and universities? Also, they killed the teachers of the universities. Are they Hamas? Even if the war finished now, like, where's the people gonna go? Nobody got homes. Everybody got a tent. He gonna continue living in a tent for more than 20 years. And they're saying it's a war, like, they want, like, to celebrate, like, what's going on. They celebrate, like, killing women and children. We saw, like, so many videos from the soldiers of Israel, like, in Gaza, what they're doing. They be happy killing babies. They be very happy. He sent, like, a video to his girlfriend, like, saying, like, I'm very happy. I killed a girl, like, maybe 9 years old, but we're looking for babies. Is the babies, like, scared Israel? A nuclear weapon, like, country like Israel, like, babies scared them? A genocide has been going on for more than a year, and nobody stopped it. Also, like, here, Australian government, like, is supporting Israel. Like, this is politicians, like, we can't change nothing. But at least, like, stop arming Israel. America and Australia, please stop arming Israel. Save the rest of the children in Gaza. Save the rest of the women. You don't know, like, how they're living in Gaza. Every day a new story. Like, sometimes, like, I can't go to work. I can't, like just go out of my house. Like, when I see 100 people dying, like, but one night in Bethlehem, how you gonna face the day, For everybody here, like, we know we used to see you, like, protesting. We used to see you, like, what are you doing? We appreciate this. As a people of Gaza, on behalf of the people in Gaza, thank you to every one of you. Thank you very much for supporting us. Thank you very much for standing with us. But now, like, why this is the modern world, America, all of our life, we used to, like, hear them, like, saying a humanity, a human rights. Where is the human rights, like, for the Palestinian people in Gaza? Have they forget it? Or maybe because they're an Arab. For 76 years, this genocide continues. But one thing everybody has to know, like, it's in our DNA as Palestinians. We know how to come back. We are all well educated. Everybody, like, knows in the whole world that can house the Palestinian people, well educated. Education to us exactly like religion. We don't care about, like, how many people dies, like, okay, we bring more. We continue. We have to get our freedom. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! For how long this genocide, please, Mr. Albanese? Just tell us, like, for how long? How many people you want more, like, to be killed? How many children you want to more, like, if this is Biden or Trump? For how long? It's nothing left there. There is no war, like, Gaza, like, it's not a place to live. This is only just the 5 cities in Gaza Strip, none is there. Nothing left. Nothing left. How are you going to live in a city if there is no hospital, no school, no university, no food, no water? What sort of life is this? Even the war is finished. The biggest war is after the war. This is the biggest war. How are they going to build up, like, what they're saying, the United Nations said, like, just to take out the rubble from Gaza, we need more than 20 years. This is the genocide for 2024. Thank you, America. Thank you, like, you killed more than 100 people of Palestinians. You've been arming Israel for the whole year. And, like, say, like, human rights. If anybody in the whole world, like, done something to a dog, they say, like, oh, where is the human right? but more than 100,000 people dying like there is no human right for them. Again, I thank you very much for every one of you, and I'm looking forward, for more people to support Palestine. And again, behalf of the Palestinian people in Gaza, thank you very much, and free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Gaza! Free Gaza! Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sammy. Is a man who has lost so much himself in Gaza, in Palestine, and yet he continues to lend his voice to our rallies, to the movement every other week. So we extend our solidarity to Sammy, his family, and every single person suffering in Gaza. In our thousands, in our millions. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. So I think, as Sammy was saying, and as the hero and journalist Palestinian Bissam Alda says, there is no safe place in Gaza. Every other week, Israel makes refugees out of refugees, forcing them to flee again and again and again to supposed safe zones. And as we speak, northern Gaza is being emptied out through a systematic campaign of starvation, mass killings, and forcible displacements. They've destroyed every single hospital in the north of Gaza. And despite this situation, Anthony Albanese has boasted that he has rejected the majority of asylum applications from Gaza. Instead of standing up to Peter Dutton's Islamophobia, he has reached into the same filthy bucket of racism to smear Palestinian refugees as somehow a threat to us. Shame. And yet IDF soldiers can come and go from Australia as they please. Australians who have served in the IDF military are free to boast about their atrocities online and then to come to Sydney University campuses and harass pro-Palestine demonstrators there. Absolute shame. The hypocrisy is unbelievable, and we will not stop calling it out. No matter how many crocodile tears Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese cry about the civilian losses and casualties in Gaza, we know that their hypocrisy runs absolutely to the bone. So I just want to reiterate our demands for today, for the rally today. We're saying to Albanese, stop exporting F-35 parts used by Israel. Those F-35 parts are made right here in Sydney, in Bankstown, at the Quickstep factory. We're saying US bases out, close Pine Gap spy base in the Northern Territory. We're calling for an arms embargo and sanctions on Israel now. And we're calling to stop the bombing in Gaza and hands off Lebanon. So I'll bring up our next speaker, who is a part of the anti-bases campaign, has been campaigning against the US military presence in Australia for a long time, Dennis Doherty.
Much everyone. I too pay my respects to the Camaragal people of this land here. The suburb just across the way there, Camaray, is a remnant of the name of the people who were here originally, and we recognise that we're standing on stolen land. Now, I don't want to bore you with my dental problems, but my dentist is an Irishman, and he noticed that I had a badge a little bit more discreet than this one about Palestine. And I said to him, good on you, Ireland, for recognising Palestine. And he said, yes. He said, I'm proud of my country. That Irishman said to me, I'm proud of my country. I thought to myself, I can't say I'm proud of my country, because my country, when it was confronted with genocide, turned the other way. Shame. Penny Wong turned the other way. Shame. I think Penny Wong must stand in front of a mirror and practice looks of pity and shock. And that's all we get. They're the appropriate looks, but we get no action. And we're ashamed to be in an Australia like that, because we believe in human rights. We believe that no one has the right to commit genocide. No one. Terrible things happened 80 years ago. Terrible things happened 80 years ago. But that doesn't excuse what they're doing now. We're talking about 2024. Now, going back in history, when you've been in this sort of business for a while, you sort of go through your banners. And in 2016, that's that's 8 years ago, we got out this banner because it was the 50th anniversary of the presence of Pine Gap in Australia. 50 years ago in 2016. And what I wrote on that banner was 50 years of war fighting, of assassination by drones and spying. That was 8 years ago. It's still as relevant today as it was then. And I looked through my banners as I had to clean out my office, and there's a banner that size which says, "Stop bombing Lebanon." We're here, we are continually coming back to the same things, the same sort of imperialist structures that keep up these wars. And each time they do, we're out here. We're out here standing for humanity, and we must keep it up, and we must congratulate ourselves and never give up. And when we started the anti-bases campaign, way back in 1987, we put out a T-shirt which said, "Close Pine Gap and the other 29 bases." Now we would have to say, and the other 50 bases. There's more than 50 bases in Australia. 50 bases. And the whole of the Northern Territory almost feels like a US base. Just in Katherine, there's an airfield, RAAF base called Tyndall. They are upgrading that so B-52 bombers can use it. B-52 bombers. And they don't drop leaflets, they drop nuclear weapons. And we're facilitating that. And when we wanted to bomb the Houthis, they used our airports. They used our airports. And we had no say in what they did. We have no say in what they do, on who they spy on. No say at all. And how do they know? How do they know that that particular building has got someone they want to assassinate in? Well, they trace it using Pine Gap. And it doesn't matter if there are 200 people living in there. If they want somebody in that one, they would collapse the building with a bunker buster. That's the sort of people they are. And that's what they're the people we're aligned with. We are in alliance with those people. And that's why we have to fight against it and fight against it. And we've been doing this fight ever since these bases arrived. There have been protests against them. There's never been accepted, and it never should be. We should be an independent country. We should decide. We should decide on our own foreign policy instead of going off to wars. Instead of supporting Israel, come hell or high water, despite what they do. We should recognise Palestine, but we can't afford to. And we have a country that knows, we have a Labor Party that knows that if they stand up, they will have will face some type of coup. And they've done it before. When you're in an alliance with the United States, you're not in an alliance with an equal, you're a vassal. We are a vassal of the United States. They tell us what to do, and we don't like it. We're an independent adult country. We are good enough to be on our own. We don't need them. We don't need the British monarchy either, by the way. But anyway, We want an independent country. We want a country that doesn't go to war at the whim of the United States. And one further thing. When you hear the list of things that are now in the Northern Territory, the Marines pass through for about 6 or 8 months a year. The firing ranges, the bombing ranges, the training, they've set up fuel dumps for the next war, and they're now even pulling in Timor-Leste and Papua New Guinea. They're starting a base in Papua New Guinea, and they're sucking up to Papua New Guinea. Guess what they're using? They're using rugby league. They're going to give them a franchise, so they'll stay on our side and have a US base in their country. Meanwhile, the people up in the highlands and so on, they're dying of all sorts of ordinary diseases that could be solved. But all the money is going to that. And you see what's happening in aged care, in the NDIS, in health, education and so on. Everything's being cut back so we can increase our military spending. So that's why when you hear that slogan, we're all Palestinians, by God, that's right. So we need to be an independent, confident country on our own, away from the United States. And let's finish by saying, very simply, close Pine Gap. Close Pine Gap. Close Pine Gap. Close Pine Gap.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I suspect that if foreign policy were in the hands of the people who are at this rally today and who have been rallying for Palestine for the last year, the $38 billion that is being submarines to point towards China, and the $144 million that Australia has put towards the development cost for the F-35 bomber would be spent in a very, very different way. Perhaps on our failing and underfunded schools, our underfunded hospitals, in Aboriginal housing and housing for all. But that is not the way that our government is spending our tax dollars. And so the next time you hear Penny Wong saying that Australia has no role in the supply of weapons to Israel, I want you to remember that that very recently Lockheed Martin had on their website that every F-35 used to drop bombs on Gaza or Lebanon now includes components manufactured only in Australia. That means that the bomber that also killed Australian aid worker Zombie Frankham had Australian components in it. And so when Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese were crying crocodile tears over that, let's remember that. Let's remember that filthy hypocrisy, and that they are providing weapons and so much more. Also, I think it bears remembering that the spy site Pine Gap, it has a satellite that covers Gaza completely. The Washington Post actually revealed that the June raid on the Nusrat refugee camp, the one that retrieved 4 hostages and killed no less than 275 Palestinians, was made possible by US intelligence, and Australian intelligence from the Pine Gap spy base. So they're absolutely putting all of their resources towards facilitating Israel's genocide in Gaza. And so our last speaker for this section of the rally is Olivia Sugi. She is a teacher and a member of the Teachers and School Staff for Palestine. She is also a childhood friend of the aid worker Zombie Frankham. Thanks, Liv. And free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Thanks, everyone. I'd like to also acknowledge the land that we are currently standing on, and acknowledge that this land sovereignty was never ceded, just like the Palestinian territories that are currently being illegally occupied. Iqra, the Arabic word which means read,
It also happens to be the very first word revealed to the final messenger of Islam, who was actually illiterate, and it was a call to seek knowledge. Historically, like Samir alluded to, Arab scholars have made significant contributions to medicine, philosophy, mathematics, and literature. It is no wonder then that the value of education is so deeply embedded in the Palestinian culture. Palestinians have one of the highest literacy rates in the world and have long had a reputation as high-performing graduates. It seems that the terrorist state of Israel is intent on destroying this culture. At a time when Palestinian children should be celebrating their return to school, they are instead watching as their schools are decimated in Gaza. Israel's latest attack took place on a school in the Shati refugee camp in Gaza City only yesterday. According to the UN, over 85% of schools in Gaza have now been destroyed. This amounts to scholasticide. All 12 universities have been destroyed. Alongside this destruction, numerous libraries, archives, museums have been wholly or partly destroyed. This physical destruction of educational infrastructure obliterates the Palestinians' ability to sustain and transmit their culture. It's a key feature of genocide. Why should this concern Australians, and why does it concern people standing here today? This deliberate destruction of Gaza's education system threatens not only the future of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children, but also the international humanitarian regime and our collective conscience. The Geneva Conventions state explicitly that attacking schools is a violation, and yet Israel continues to do so with complete impunity and with the support of the Australian government. Shame! When Israel targets a school, it understands the consequences. The slaughter of predominantly women and children. Schools can be rebuilt, but lives can never, ever be replaced. Those injured face lifelong disabilities, such as the loss of limbs, eyesight, hearing. The long-term repercussions of these devastating attacks on schools will impact generations. But we know schools and children aren't simply unfortunate collateral damage. Israel's targeting of schools is systematic. It's strategic. Since the start of the genocide, UNRWA schools have been heavily attacked, further crippling essential aid distribution and exacerbating the man-made humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Israel's military actions are a direct assault on the fundamental rights of human civilians, particularly children. This is a very sad time in our history then, as the global community's ability to uphold international law is diminishing right before our very eyes. More than 12 months into this genocide, we have failed the children of Palestine. When we continue to tolerate violations of international law, it slowly erodes, making once unthinkable acts seem tolerable. If we can justify the killing of any children for any reason, then we can justify just about anything, and in that moment, we've lost our humanity. When targeting schools becomes increasingly acceptable, we are betraying the core principles of protecting civilians. The US and Australian governments are feeding this betrayal. Our government representatives, Albanese, Wong, continue to blindly align with the US and funnel money into more deadly weapons. Shame! You are funding terrorists, and Australian citizens do not want to be complicit in your crimes. It is time to tell the truth. The truth is, our taxes are being used to fund Israel's genocide. This government says that they represent the Australian people, but do they? No. As they loudly help Israel destroy schools in Palestine, they silently destroy schools right here through continued funding cuts. With the exception of the ACT, no public school in Australia is funded at the SRS level. Shame. Penny Wong describes Israel as our ally. Israel was certainly no ally of Australian aid worker and my high school friend Zomi Frankham, who was targeted and brutally murdered by the IOF. On Tuesday the 2nd of April, Anthony Albanese demanded full accountability for Zomi's death. 7 months later, where is that accountability? As someone who knew Zomi personally, I'm deeply offended by our government's empty words that can only condemn the attack but not the rogue state that implemented the attack. No end to two-way arms trades, no economic sanctions. Shame. Instead, the Australian government appears committed to rewarding the company complicit in Zomi's murder and countless innocent Palestinians. In fact, this year, hopefully we're all aware, Australia actually awarded Israeli company Elbit Systems a fresh defence contract worth $917 million, but no money for schools. If the US and Australia are supplying weapons and their key components used to kill aid workers, journalists, and thousands of innocent children, they are not only complicit, but active participants in this genocide. So we stand here today to remind our government that the choice before you is very clear. Either Albanese and his government finally draws a red line and acts decisively to uphold the principles of humanitarian law, or allow the erosion of our shared human values to continue unchecked. We cannot afford to remain indifferent, for the cost of our inaction is measured in the lives and the futures of innocent children. Teachers and school staff for Palestine have been fiercely advocating for our Palestinian and Lebanese teachers, students, and families. How despicable that our government asked teachers to remain neutral on genocide. We say no, we will not remain neutral. With over 40 schools participating in our latest week of action, the momentum is building and we will not stop until Palestine is free. We call on our government to act now. Stop supplying weapons parts used to bomb Palestinian and Lebanese civilians. End two-way arms trade. Expel the Israeli ambassador. Sanction Israel. And free Palestine!
Thank you. Thanks so much, Liz. So I'm going to rattle off a few things that most of us would know very clearly and very instinctively are not. Israel has bombed without any consequences. Schools, not a target. Hospitals, not a target. Refugee camps, not a target. Stop the bombing now. Schools, not a target. Hospitals, not a target. Refugee camps, not a target. Stop the bombing now. Okay, so while we're getting ready to march, I just think it's important for us to remember amongst all the misery that we do see, and after Donald Trump having come back for the second time, that we have had victories and we are continuing to fight. And I think, I want to acknowledge the Teachers for Palestine over here who have really been a bright spot in this campaign, organising in the face of incredible repression in their workplaces, being given an absurd directive to remain neutral on genocide, as if that's even a possibility. We've had mass student meetings that have, over 800 people voting to support the right of Palestinians to resist and their right to all of Palestinian land in a one-state solution. We've also had, we've had union groups all around this country supporting Palestine from day dot, and we're going to continue with this every day until the genocide stops and until our government stops its support. So I think we're going to start marching now. Just follow the Stop the War on Palestine banner up there, and we'll start with Albanese, blood on your hands. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, blood on your hands. Donald Trump, blood on your hands. Penny Wong, blood on your hands. Penny Wong, blood on your hands. Free Palestine. 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 Free Palestine.
Gaza!
this is the arrival point, the US Embassy at 50 Miller Street, North Sydney. So you've got a selection of plainclothes and riot squad and whoever's here. And this is where they're heading. United States Consulate General, Sydney. US visas, US citizen services, please not for entry. So yeah, we'll see. Here they arrive now. And now all the extra police that came along and now they're getting put forward now to the pavement to keep everyone off and away from the door. Probably including me, but no one said anything.
I know this isn't not our usual stomping ground, and I think that's probably why the US Consulate moved to where it is, because we kept being a menace to them in the middle of the city. But it is actually very easy, thanks to the new metro line, to get from the inner west to here. So I suspect we'll be back. So we've got a couple more speakers today to end our rally. So next up we have Natasha Abdul Ghani. She's a Palestinian-Pakistani law student at UTS. She's a member of the UTS Student Association with the Palestinian Youth for Council. She's also the secretary of the Palestinian Youth Society and vice president of activities for the Law Society. Her grandparents came from Nazareth and are survivors of the Nakba. Sorry, gotta get my next page. I don't want to leave out this story. Her parents were exiled to Lebanon and grew up in a refugee camp in the south. Until this day, they have not been able to return to Palestine. So thank you, Natasha. It's on now. Thank you, Natasha.
I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today. I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I understand and I acknowledge that the land we are gathered on today is stolen land that is and always will belong to Indigenous Australians. To stand for Palestine means to stand for the rights of Indigenous Australians, and to stand for the rights of Indigenous Australians means to stand for the rights of Palestinians. From Gadigal to Gaza, I push and I hope for our freedom. My name is Natasha Abdul Ghani, and I'm a Palestinian woman. I'm the daughter of a refugee, a child of Nakba survivors, and a child whose homeland is under occupation and whose people are subjected to extreme violence and exile. Violence that is being broadcasted in front of our eyes, that the world continues to pretend that they do not see. As an Australian who is from Palestine, I am devastated. I am constantly in a state of insurmountable grief. I am not the same person that I was before the war. I am filled with rage and I am angry all the time. There is a pain that we all feel, and it is the pain of exile. It is generational. It runs in our blood, and it is in every step that we take. It is in every breath that we breathe. It is the cut that always bleeds, the wound that will not heal. It's a lingering longing that seizes at our hearts every second of every day. My family is from a district in Nazareth called Supple. My grandparents were children who dreamed of growing up in their home. One day their families were evicted from their village and were told that they would be gone just for the weekend, but instead it was for a lifetime. During this period of the Nakba, they lost so many people that they knew and that they loved. To this day, they have not returned. Their white knuckles gripping hard to the keys of their home, to a home that has been demolished, to a home that they have been told is not theirs. Instead, they became lifelong refugees in a camp called Ain al-Hilweh in the south of Lebanon, which is currently being bombed. Their exile became temporary homeland, and in the south of Lebanon, they are still not safe. Their refuge is under attack. My father was born and raised in this refugee camp. To grow up in a camp means to grow up in a state of exile, longing and dreaming about a place called home. This was a collective dream for every single person in this refugee camp. He dreamt about a land that would be his own, but like most Palestinians, he lived and died without ever feeling this sense of belonging, without ever returning home. His dream did not die with him. This fight is not over. His exile is my exile. His hurt and his anger is mine, and we are all here today for this very fight. We will not stop fighting until we see nations like Australia stop their support for this genocide. To date, the death toll has estimated to surpass 186,000 people. Our brothers and sisters in Gaza face relentless bombardment, death, and destruction on an unprecedented scale. And what has Australia done? Less than nothing. In fact, we live in a country that supports, funds, and arms Israel. I cannot and I will not hear that we are too far away from this and that we are not attached to the war crimes that are happening overseas. They have killed us. They have taken our water. They have burnt down our olive trees. They have destroyed our houses, stolen our land, imprisoned and tortured our people, starved them, refused their rights to aid, humiliated and neglected them. Australia is complicit in this. Bombs are raining down. Families are crying for their dead children. Our people are being ethnically cleansed. Men are being tortured, being run over by tanks. Houses are being demolished, and universities and hospitals no longer exist. And yet the Australian government will not call this a genocide. They will not condemn the perpetrators of this genocide. Instead, they stand alongside Israel and the United States. The IDF has publicly announced that ethnic cleansing will be their new policy, refusing Palestinians the right to return home. They are systemically removing us from our homeland, and the Australian government stays silent. The ICJ's ruling explicitly underscores states' obligations not to engage in economic relations that serve to entrench Israel's illegal activities. If international law is not enough for our government to recognize that supporting a genocide is wrong, then I question it as a government. And I condemn those who remain silent. The Australian government is complicit in this genocide. They have blood on their hands. Anthony Albanese has blood on his hands. These entities want us to be tired. They want us to grow weary and to stop this fight. But the Australian government does not know that with this, my resentment only grows bigger, and that my anger fuels me here. I refuse to be tired. While bombs drop and our culture is being politicized, and I refuse to be tired. While they delegitimize our people and refuse to hear the cries of the children in Gaza, I refuse to be tired. We are not free until Palestine is free, and we will not stop existing. Our existence is our resistance, and we will not stop. Our culture will be practiced, our cries will be heard, and our identity as Palestinians will not be erased. Gaza, the West Bank, occupied Palestinian territories, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran. My tears are for you, and my prayers are for you. This fight will not stop. Thank you.
Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied.
Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied.
Resistance is justified.
Palestine is occupied.
And another one for Albanese, and to let them all know that no matter where they move their buildings, they cannot hide from us. They cannot hide from our anger, from the solidarity that we're going to show every day until this genocide is over. Albanese, you can't hide.
Albanese, you can't hide.
You're supporting genocide.
You're supporting genocide.
Joe Biden, you can't hide.
Joe Biden, you can't hide.
You're supporting genocide.
You're supporting genocide.
Donald Trump, you can't hide.
Donald Trump, you can't hide.
You're supporting genocide.
You're supporting genocide.
Okay, and so we've got one last speaker today. As I said earlier, this rally was organised by Stop the War on Palestine, and so we've got James Supple, who's an activist with our group, who's coming up to speak. But before I hand over to him, we're going to be passing around a couple of buckets just to collect some donations to help us pay for the printing and other random costs that come along with the rally. Anything left over will go into our continued fight for a free Palestine. So I'll hand over to James now.
So we're outside the US Consulate today to both call on the US and the Australian governments, to stop arming Israel, because we know that Israel is a creature of Western imperialism. We know that without the bombs, without the missiles, without the jet fighters that come from the United States and from Australia, Israel simply would not be able to continue its genocide, would not be able to continue its massacres. There's something that Albanese, there's something that the US President could do right away to absolutely stop the killing in Gaza and stop the killing in Lebanon, and yet they refuse to do it. And we know, as people have said, that with Trump in the White House, the US will be even more dangerous, than it has been. Apart from all the other things that Trump is responsible for, you look at his last time in power, he was, positioned himself as a very pro-Israel president. And people have reeled off, some of the things he did before, like moved the US embassy, recognised the capital of Israel as Jerusalem. He recognised, the illegal occupation of Golan Heights as Israeli territory. He actually started the process of trying to, push more of the Arab governments to actually leave to leave Palestine completely behind and normalise relations with Israel with the Abraham Accords. And actually another thing that might sound familiar, he defunded UNRWA in terms of the US funding to actually the services, the Palestinians who still live as refugees, in their own homeland and in surrounding countries. And I think, it's telling that Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has done everything he can over the last few months to try and make sure that Trump won the election, because he thinks he's going to get whatever he wants from Donald Trump. I think many people, in the face of Trump's victory, might be inclined to blame the US population, to think that ordinary people in the US, there's two people who fundamentally, too many of them agree with what Trump stands for, with all this sexism, the racism, the warmongering, and so on. But I actually think that the biggest share of responsibility has to go to the Democrats, to Joe Biden, to Kamala Harris. Because they promised nothing to people in the US in terms of anything about, the cost of living crisis that's going on, anything to tackle the rampant inequality, anything, for people's living standards. They promised only a continuation of the genocide. And I think in the face of their abject failure, so many people simply refused to vote altogether because there really was no alternative on offer. And we even know actually that some Palestinian and Arab Americans, decided to vote for Trump simply to try and give a kick to Biden and Harris. So disgusted, so angry were they, with the way that they've backed this genocide wholeheartedly for over the last year. So I think, really the responsibility is with the system in the US. We can't expect change to come through, the US electoral system. We know the Democrats wouldn't have changed anything about Gaza if they had actually won the election. And in that context, who can blame people, for refusing to vote, or for wanting to kick Biden and Harris for what they've done? It's not going to come through elections. The change that we need in the US, the same way that we need here, the change is actually going to have to come through a mass movement outside of Parliament, through people on the streets fighting whoever's in power to demand an end to the genocide and an end to the killing. But we're also here to point the finger at Albanese, because Australia's complicity with the genocide in Gaza is very much bound up, with Australia's alliance with the US, alliance with the US military, and its ties with the US military machine. We've seen Albanese throw himself into support for US militarism at every opportunity, from the $368 billion for the nuclear subs, for billions more for missiles, to build more missiles in Australia, to buy more missiles from the US, as Dennis and others have said, to expand the US bases in Australia, to tie Australia as closely as possible to the US military. And I think that with Trump in power, with the US an even more dangerous, even more rogue state, there's even more reason than ever for Australia to get out of the AUKUS agreement and to break the US alliance altogether. I think it's important that we've had speakers today about Pine Gap, because I don't think Pine Gap has got the attention it deserves. In terms of the US alliance, Pine Gap is probably the single most important thing Australia does to aid the US military, and I think it's probably the most single important thing it actually does to actually aid directly the genocide that's happening in Gaza and what Israel's doing in Lebanon. Not enough people even know what Pine Gap is. The fact that we have hundreds, at least 400 US military, CIA, NSA personnel working in this massive intelligence facility, right in the heart of Australia. And it's a disgrace that Albanese is allowing that facility, to pass on whatever intelligence, whatever information Israel wants to them from the US. The other way that we know that Albanese is complicit, in what's happening in Gaza is that Australia is sending weapons. Albanese tries to say, that doesn't really have anything to do with him, what's happening in Gaza and Lebanon. Australia's not really involved. He claims there's no Australian weapons that are being sold to Israel for the last 5 years. He tells us ad nauseum. But we know that there are parts going for the F-35 fighter jets, the jets that Israel is using to drop massive 1,000 kilogram bombs, in Gaza and in Lebanon. Fighter jets that were used to bomb a safe zone in Al-Mawasi in Gaza in July, killing scores of civilians, and in numerous other, airstrikes that Israel's carried out. We know that there are companies, in Sydney and Quickstep, that supply parts for the F-35s. There are Australian companies that build, components that hold the bombs inside the aircraft. There are Australian companies that supply the parts for the bomb bay doors that open to allow them to drop the bombs. Australia is absolutely up to its neck complicit in the delivery of these fighter jets that are raining death, on Gaza and in Lebanon. And so that's why we've called for an end to Australian weapons exports, for sanctions on Israel. Those are two very simple things that Albanese could do directly to actually put some real pressure on Israel to stop what it's doing. No more of just the pathetic grimaces from Penny Wong, the token expressions of concern. There are real ways in which Australia is complicit in this genocide, and they have to end now. We've seen around the world there's more and more of a call for the end of those weapons exports. 54 countries have just signed a letter to the United Nations calling for a global ban on weapons to Israel. A few months ago, the new British government suspended some 30 weapons export permits to Israel. Not enough, but a start and a recognition about the reality that the West is actually sending weapons to Israel, and that there's something that could be directly done to stop that. And we need to build that call louder. And I just wanted to finish by saying we need to build a much stronger and much more powerful movement if we're actually going to deliver those sanctions and break Australia from supporting Israel and the US. The truth is, we still have a task in actually winning over the majority of people to actually supporting Albanese to take those kind of demands for sanctions. I think the majority of people are horrified by the war, but they're confused when Albanese says he's not involved and he denies that he can do anything. And so we've got a task to actually get out and explain to people how Australia is implicated, what Albanese could do, and how much up to his neck he is in what's going on in Gaza. We have to reject the lies from Albanese when he says he's not involved and he doesn't send weapons. And I think that means we need more people involved in getting out to leaflet train stations, in getting organised, to take the message into the suburbs, to take the message into workplaces and trade unions. I think there's been some fantastic work done by the teachers. We heard earlier today about their day of action, taking the message into schools, having watermelon lunches, having discussions with colleagues, taking little actions at school, for Gaza. We need to spread that right across society and build the support for Palestine and build the support for Albanese, cutting all the ties. So, everyone here today, if you're not already involved, you should sign up, get involved, make sure we build this movement. Israel is not stopping the horror in Gaza and Lebanon, and we can't afford to stop the movement here either. So we need to keep raising our voices, we need to keep, building the support for Palestine, and keep putting the pressure on Albanese until he delivers those sanctions and breaks Australian support for Israel. So, point 250 chance. Albanese, end the lies. You supply F-35s. Albanese, end the lies. You supply F-35s. Albanese, end the lies. You supply F-35s.
Albanese, end the lies. You supply F-35s.
Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today?
Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today?
Donald Trump, Al Gore, how many kids will it be tomorrow?
Donald Trump, Al Gore, how many kids will it be tomorrow?
Israel, USA, how many kids did you kill today?
Israel, USA, how many kids did you kill today?
Donald Trump, Al Gore, how many kids will it be tomorrow?
Donald Trump, Al Gore, how many kids will it be tomorrow?
Thank you very much, James. And I think, I'd like to reiterate James's point. I think that, we've built a very powerful movement. We know that well over 50% of people in Australia want the war in Gaza to end, but there is a disconnect, I think. We can take half from that, but it's only around 35% of people that think that the Australian government hasn't done enough to end the war in Gaza. There is a disconnect, there's a lack of understanding about the level of active complicity of our government in the slaughter in Gaza and around Lebanon. And I think it is our job to go out there and make sure that people know that out in our communities, in our workplaces and wherever else. And so, if you want to get involved in Stop the War on Palestine, we meet fortnightly. Our next meeting is not this Tuesday, but the following. We're open to anyone and everyone. Doesn't matter if you don't have experience at all in activism. We welcome everyone. So come and talk to me or James or the people holding our banner over here. We need you to join us because we have a big, massive task ahead of us. So I want to end on a chant that I think rings true for all of us and carries us through every day that we see this water happening. Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry, Palestine!
Palestine.